Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so another trade has been made. The Boston Celtics, Atlanta Hawks, and the Brooklyn Nets have all agreed to deal with one another. The Hawks are getting Kristaps in a second rounder. The Celtics are getting George Niang in a second rounder, and the Nets are getting Terrence Mann and a 22 overall pick tomorrow in the draft. The Nets now have 5 first-round picks, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 4 or 5 first-round picks? So, first of all, the Nets get the number 22 overall pick tomorrow because Terrence Mann has 3 years on his $15 million deal. And that is the only deal that's not expiring. Kristaps is expiring 1 year, what is it? 30, I think, or something, 15. I've looked at so many numbers over the last hour trying to figure this out, but yeah, that is really what's going on. And of course, George Niang is expiring as well. Yes, $30 million is Kristaps. There we go. That's what we're waiting on. George Niang is $8 million expiring, headed to the Celtics. Another shooter goes to the Celtics. Second round pick tomorrow. The 36 overall pick goes to the Celtics, which I think could be sneakily a very solid pick, because that's a good range. Second round, first 4 picks, something like that. That's really good. Not to mention that the Celtics also have another pick in that range, so they're going to get 2 nice players in the draft tomorrow. The Boston Celtics in that second round, good role players. Maybe be able to trade up with those 2 picks if they want to, try to get a better pick if they want, or maybe do something with that. And the 22nd overall pick is actually the Lakers pick for all of us Laker fans. That's on the move. So that will be now in Brooklyn. And I do expect it could be on the move again. Because Brooklyn, having as many picks as they do, they don't need that many kids in this one single draft. I do understand they're trying to rebuild, but it's probably best for them to get a higher quality kid than this many. Although, as I said in my video earlier, that's a really good range to be in, man. For this particular draft, they have 26, 27, 22, 19, and 8. That is 5 first-round picks in this draft, yo. And I can tell you right now, as I said earlier, there's not a big difference, in my humble opinion, between 14 and basically, depending on how it shakes out, 28. You can find the same guys somehow in this range. People are going to be slipping and falling. People are going to be reaching in the second round to get guys in the first round. So there's a damn good chance you could pair together 5 very quality prospects if you're the Brooklyn Nets. I'm probably going to trade something. Something's getting traded. I'll probably trade 1 or 2 of those picks. 4 is a lot. 5 is crazy. You just don't want to be having to put that many rookies on one team in 1 year. You know what I mean? You don't want to do that to your coach. That's too many kids to develop at once. Now, some of these guys, they're going to be able to grow together. Some of them are ready to go. Some of them 4-year guys, have already been around for a while. And you can get really creative if you decide to keep all 5 of those picks. And get yourself a whole starting lineup of kids that all fit with one another, or people who have very different, skill sets, stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that the Nets could do if they want to get creative. But 5 is a lot. 5 is a lot. In my mock draft, you guys can go check that out. I would have them getting Jeremiah Fears, Jace Richardson, Nick Clifford, Maxime Renaud, and I had Atlanta taking Rasheer Fleming with 22. So that's a lot of kids, man. Of course, it's going to look different tomorrow, but that's what my mock would have had it looking like. I probably would have drafted something different for Brooklyn if I would have known they had 22, although who knows? Who really knows what that would have looked like as I would have done my homework and all of that. With that in mind, so, the trade itself, just looking at it from the Atlanta perspective, I get giving up the Laker pick, the 22nd overall first pick in this trade, because you're bringing in a guy, Kristaps Porzingis, who has $30 million coming off your books. as soon as this upcoming summer, next summer. He's a productive player at 30 years of age, who's made an all-star team, won an NBA championship. You're happy if you can negotiate with him and re-sign him if you're the Atlanta Hawks. If you like what you see next year, you're very happy to bring him back. If you decide that you don't want him, you have a very attractive trade piece expiring at the deadline. So if you want to trade him at the deadline, rather, he's an attractive piece to trade. And if you let him just outright play out the season, he's so good of a player, and if he has a good season, that you potentially picked up an all-star that could help you win extra games in the regular season and in the playoffs. And then would be coming off your books if you lose him in free agency, leaving you $30 million of free agency money. So all of that combined, those circumstances, coupled with you getting rid of George Niang, who's only an $8 million expiry, not really important, but then getting off of Terrence Mann, who has 3 years and $15 million, where you didn't have the role for him like that, that's probably not the greatest allocation of your assets, your money, going $15 million a year for the next 3 years for for Terrence Mann. You're going to have to give up something good in order to have that coming your way. To move only $8 million of expiring salary and get $30 million of expiring salary on a very good player, basically in his prime. Yeah, I can see why you have to give up a first-round pick for that. I can see why. And the Nets, of course, as I said, they're taking back the deal with Terrence Mann. That's not a great deal for the Nets, so you should be given some compensation for that. And Boston's able to get below the second apron, if I'm not mistaken, with this deal, which is excellent for them. So they definitely shouldn't be taking back no more than the second-round pick for their troubles, because they ain't no troubles. They bring it back $8 million George Niang. They clear up all this money overnight and move in 2 deals, man. They got off of Kristaps Porzingis at $30 million, essentially trading him as an expiring contract and getting back dirt cheap George Niang coming off the books right away. A three-point shooter who has been able to do a lot of good things in volume from behind the arc in a system that wants to shoot more threes than anybody else. So George Niang fits perfectly with the Boston Celtics. It's a throwaway year. It's about saving money. It's about making yourself, extremely flexible, and ultimately kind of getting rid of some guys that really need to win right now, with a season upcoming where Jason Tatum will likely not play at all. So for Boston, it's they've been swinging and hitting grand slams for the last 24 hours. If I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think anybody's doing better things than them right now, given what their goals were. Yesterday we talked about how they picked up Anthony Simons and moved on from Drew Holiday, and somehow ended up with 2 second-round picks in that process, which is crazy, given that Drew Holiday's on a multi-year deal at 35 years of age, coming off a down year. And Anthony Simons is 26 years old on a 2-year deal, fits their situation, likely heading into his prime. They should have been giving up picks instead of taking them back. I think most people agree with that, as I listen to a lot of people talk about it. So, yeah, man, the Boston Celtics are doing great right now. You can't hate what they're doing, unless you're me, because, you know we get down over here. But as far as everything else, man, I think this is a win for everybody. I don't think this is a loss. I think the Hawks, when understanding they gave up the Laker pick, it's the 22nd overall pick. At this point, when you're giving up first-round picks, you kind of wish that you hope to be in the situation the Hawks are in, to say, we know exactly what the pick is worth. We know exactly who's in the draft, because the draft is less than 24 hours away. It's not like we're giving away a pick tomorrow that could be, landing us some top prospect. We're not giving away some pick down in 2030 that could potentially be the first overall pick. It's none of those risks. You know what is in front of you, and you know exactly what type of player you potentially could be targeting, or what players you could be targeting. Do you like any of those people more than you like Kristaps is the question. And the answer for me is, based on what it is I'm looking at, no. That range is good, but that range ain't fantastic. the range becomes fantastic around 26, 27, 28 because you start realizing that after all of the things that have been taken in the draft, there's still a lot of good left over. 21, 22, you're in the range where people are taking good stuff, but you're kind of picking up what's left of what has been passed up on. You may reach for a second round guy in that range, that kind of thing. But it's a weird setup in this draft to where the first 3 picks are exciting picks. From there all the way through, actually the first, I'd say 17 picks are exciting. It starts dropping off 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and then you realize 24, 25, 26, 27 that there's so much good left over. So that is like the sweet spot range to where if you're trading away out of this draft, you don't feel that bad about it, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't make sense if I think about it to most, but if you study this draft, you start realizing, once you get to like 21, 22, you're like, what am I taking? What am I taking? What am I taking? There's a lot there that you could take, but there's a lot of stuff that's left you too. Once you start getting to the back of that draft and you start realizing, okay, with what has been left over, there's still quality here going into the second round. So you have less expectations for what your pick should ultimately be able to garner, and thus should be pleased with the quality that you're getting with that range. I think that's the best way to describe what I'm saying. Very difficult to fathom, but if you study this draft well enough, that's kind of how most people see it. It's a sweet spot range that actually isn't something that you see every year. For you to be excited about the first 14, 17 through 17 picks, and then the 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, you're like, and then 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, all the way through 37, 38 in the second round, you're like, yes, it's weird, but that's how that is. So we'll see if it actually shakes out that way. I think it will. But yeah, man, this is what it is. So that's a trash first rounder, if that makes any sense. The Lakers pick is not good based on what I've seen in mocks and based on what I'm looking at in my own. So you're fine with that if you're Atlanta. It's a win no matter what happens with Porzingis. If he goes down, that could obviously suck, and that's a good chance he may, because he's injury prone as hell. So that's the risk. But the pick ain't that great. Maybe players can be anything, but in this draft, you don't expect that pick is going to be a Hall of Famer or nothing like that. You don't expect that player would be able to help you right away. And so you're cool with moving on from that. If you're Atlanta, bringing in Kristaps Porzingis, who's clearly going to be your starting power forward or center next year. I had them taking, Atlanta did. I have Atlanta taking Derek Queen at 13 for this exact reason. So my mock draft does change a little bit because I don't know if I'm targeting Derek Queen if he's available now that I have Kristaps in place. I don't think so. So my mock draft probably changes a little bit based on what moves have been made. But as I told you guys when I made that mock, that I thought a lot of trades would be coming to shake things up. And since then, I think like 3 picks have been traded in the first round. So, yeah, that's just something to think about. But all in all, the point is the Atlanta Hawks, in my mind, needed a different type of power forward, a center type guy. So they were able to address that in this situation. And I think they should be very happy about that. I think their overall ceiling looks better. And they have ability to do some good things here. Their defense continues to improve. Kristaps is a significant rim protector, particularly talented three-point shooter, as we all understand. A tall person, which is something that Atlanta didn't have a whole lot of. Somebody 7'3", I believe. Atlanta didn't have nobody that tall. They can move on from Clint Capella without worrying about it, which is something I thought they were going to do anyway, but this gives them more insurance next to Onyeka Okongwu. So I like it. I like this for Atlanta a lot. There's like one thing that can go wrong and like 5 things that can go right, essentially what I see there. And the pick doesn't really matter to them that much. So, yeah, it would be different if the pick were different for me. But then moving on from Terrence Mann makes a lot of sense. He's not going to make any sense on a $15 million contract for anybody. So that's really what it comes down to. You got to move on from that. And for the Nets, they could take it because they are a rebuilding situation team. They have no real names. They got a bigger role potentially for Terrence Mann, given the fact he's going to be playing with a bunch of rookies next year potentially. He's a nice defensive guy, point of attack defender kind of guy, Swiss Army knife role player kind of guy. That's probably good of a place as any for his contract for now. And so you don't care if you're the Nets. You just take the pick and probably package most of the picks that you have. They probably either trade up or send it somewhere, try to get yourself somebody massive, some superstar dude. You can, Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you're the Bucks, maybe you want all 5 of them picks, and the salary matches to be the difference. And you could send them Giannis. That's kind of crazy, but it's not something I would expect wouldn't be possible with the Nets having so many young picks. So yeah, man, anything could happen right now. Essentially with the Nets, they're significantly pick rich, but I think those picks value more before the picks are actually made. Once they become young prospects, the value dips on those significantly. So if I'm the Nets, I would make sure that I move those picks tonight or tomorrow morning before the draft. Because if you wait, they're not worth as much. If you want the value of picks, you should trade them for future picks. Trade all that stuff you got in this draft. If you're not going to draft all that stuff, and you want the value of picks to be what they are, obviously, redundantly speaking, trade them to someone who has futures, keeps you pick rich. So that would be my suggestion. This ain't a bad draft though for them to have this many picks. I think they could find a lot of quality if they decide to pick them all. They can find a lot of quality. So that's really what I see there, man. Just a pretty solid trade, good decision for all teams involved, if you ask me. Especially if the Nets have intentions of shipping all them picks out for something special. I heard some rumor that Trae Young there's some communication maybe with the Timberwolves in regards to Trae Young. I don't expect that that's something, but it could be. So keep your eye open for rumors that are starting to rumble about Atlanta potentially moving on from Trae. And when I look at Trae Young, I know people are saying, well, Trae Young's the star of the Atlanta Hawks. But it seems like the Atlanta Hawks have a defensive identity that they're starting to form. Trae Young don't fit that. We talk about Dyson Daniels, Kristaps Porzingis, Jalen Johnson is obviously an offensive player, but he plays some defense too. Onyeka Okongwu's nice defensive player. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but it seems to me that the Hawks have a kind of a defensive approach. Reece Shea. Trae Young can easily be removed from that situation, and depending on what the trade is, could further reinforce the new era of Atlanta without actually moving away from the win now timeline. They can actually get better by moving Trae Young if they get creative with it. I'm just being honest. And if you're moving to the Minnesota Timberwolves, if you can get, McDaniels, I don't know what they would have in mind, but like, just from an Atlanta perspective, the Minnesota Timberwolves have plenty of defensive players that I could stay winning if I make a trade sending them somebody like Trae Young. Now, if I'm the Timberwolves, do I need Trae Young? Honestly, I don't. But, like, if I'm in Atlanta, just strictly thinking from Atlanta's point of view, I wouldn't be surprised if they're moving on from Trae Young with the intention of continuing to get better as a basketball team. I like Trae Young a lot, but I just don't know if I have any use for him being my main star, the main person I'm paying $250 million or whatever it would be if I'm the Atlanta Hawks with the identity I now have in place. I don't. I can find a star that fits my situation a bit better than he does. Somebody I don't have to hide on the defensive end when I got a defensive strength going on for myself. And so Atlanta's curious, man. I'm not sure if they're thinking that way. I don't know if there's any validity to that rumor. I didn't get that from a reliable source. But I'm just saying, like, if you're thinking about moving Trae Young, I think most people would think that it's rebuilding time. But when you look at what Atlanta has and what they've been able to do with all these picks that have come their way, getting the first overall pick last year, and all these different players, they would very much still be able to contend. Probably, maybe even better if they move Trae Young for the right package. So that's just something I've been thinking about when I saw what I saw there. So, yeah, man, that's pretty much what I got to say. Atlanta Hawks look like they're doing a pretty good job of trying to put together something that can really help them right away, something that can make them flexible next year. And the Laker pick continues to fly all over the world, man. Everybody's touching that pick but us, and we could sure use that pick in our asset class. But yeah, that's a whole other story. At any rate, congratulations to the ops of Boston Celtics for continuing to get money off of their books. And I'm looking forward to the draft, man. We'll see if more trades are coming. I wouldn't be surprised if there are more trades before tomorrow, man. I would not be surprised. The environment for which trades can be made, I think people have gotten a little more used to the aprons and stuff like that. They're not as hesitant because a year of dealing with it has taught people what they can and cannot do. So they should be more comfortable making moves in this environment. And I think the concern is starting to settle down a lot this summer. So I expect moves to be made. So that's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDO44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.